Okay, if there are no objections, it's 9:30 by my watch and the planning department's watch, if not the Wesleyan Chapel's official clock. So unless there are any objections, I'm going to call it 9:30 and commence this meeting in the planning committee. Welcome everybody, members, press, public. Takes us to agenda item 1, declarations of interest. I'll just wait for everybody to return to the chairs in case there are declarations. Wonderful, no declarations of interest. Okay, takes us to agenda item 2, the minutes of the previous meeting. Any comments, Councillor Billsborough?
Yes, Chairman, I have read these minutes and I propose to accept them as a true record.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Molson?
Seconded.
Seconded. Councillor Sims, was that to second? Yeah. Okay, that's been proposed and seconded. Any? No? All those in favour? Okay, that's been approved. Thank you. So I meant to say, for just information for members at the beginning of the meeting, as you hopefully will be aware, I'm requesting that you remain immediately after this meeting for a closed session to discuss the situation surrounding Park House. Thank you. That's all I have to say on that subject at this time. There are no urgent items, which takes us to part 1, agenda item 4.
Thank you, Chair. This is a report that seeks members' approval to consult on and adopt a revised planning enforcement charter. The revised document is attached at Appendix D, and the report summarises that adopting an enforcement guide is best practice and is intended to set out a clear procedure to follow, that unauthorised works and uses are resolved as swiftly and as efficiently as possible in the public interest.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? Councillor Billsborough?
I'll say one, Chairman. I accept this, but one thing which worries me sometimes is that we don't either notice a thing has not been done or it's known and we take no action. And if that goes on, it then becomes established use. It's been going on for, say, 4 years. It becomes established use and we're going to do nothing about it. I think we ought to be vigilant, and when something is reported to us, we investigate it straight away. Otherwise, I'm happy with this.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's the entire point of this agenda item. So thank you for that. Any further comments or questions? We have a recommendation to adopt the revised planning enforcement charter. Was that a proposal seconded by the Chairman of Council?
Yep.
Councillor McCarthy.
I was going to second it. I just think, to be honest, I wasn't aware that we actually had a planning enforcement charter, but this one...
well, we will in about 30 seconds, Councillor McCarthy.
Yes. It does say a revised one, so I'm pleased that we've actually got one that looks readable, is readable, and makes sense.
Proposed and seconded for approval. All those in favour? That's unanimously approved. Thank you. Item 5, the increase in planning fees.
Thank you, Chair. This is a report that seeks members' approval to increase planning fees locally by 20%. This increase in planning fees is the first time the government have offered the choice in whether the local authority increases its planning fees, but it's dependent on the council's agreement to commit any additional fee income back into the planning service. As you'll see from the report, the fees generated currently by the submission of applications do not cover the modest planning service provided by the council. The 20% increase in planning fees will bring the income closer to the current cost of delivering the planning service. It's therefore recommended that the offer to increase is accepted.
Comments or questions? Chairman of Council?
Yes, I will propose a recommendation. We really do have to meet our costs. We all know the budget deficit.
Seconded by Councillor Billsborough. Councillor Grotty, were you going to comment, or was that to second? Sorry.
No, I was happy to second that. In this, when we are so short of money, we absolutely need to think of increasing fees to a reasonable level.
Yeah, at least to cover our costs. Proposed and seconded for approval then. All those in favour? I think that's unanimously approved. Thank you. Item 6, the update on the local plan preparation timetable.
Thank you, Chair. The Council is required to adopt a local plan timetable to inform the public about the various stages of the local plan and points when they're able to get involved. Officers to continue to work on the draft plan, but have I have to set realistic, reasonable timetable to reflect the resources available. The current timetable aims to carry out public consultation by June 2017, with a view to submitting a draft plan later in the year, and members are asked to accept this revised timetable.
I should probably point out that obviously you can choose not to accept the revised timetable, and if you can invent a time machine, that would be wonderful. Chairman of Council.
I'll propose a recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Daly.
Chairman, I've got a question about the new local plan. It was something that came up at the last meeting of the Planning Committee, and that was this ambiguous shepherd's hut, which seems to be indistinguishable from a caravan.
In that case, I'm going to have to, if you really want to go down that route, Councillor Daly, I'm going to have to declare an interest.
Okay.
Okay, I'll declare an interest then. Thanks very much.
Councillor Daly.
Thank you, yes. I, along with a lot of members and members of the public, thought we were immune from caravans by a duchy veto.
Chair,
I don't think.
I'll declare an interest if he's going to mention caravans.
Seem to be flushing them out.
Councillor Daly, with all due respect, I think this is
Yes.
your remarks are better suited to a discussion of the local plan rather than this item seeks to adopt and publish the timetable, not to discuss the nitty-gritty of the local plan, surely.
I understand that, Chairman, but this is probably my last meeting as a councillor. So I'm using it to raise the thought, because I think we need to include it into our local plan.
Mm-hmm.
And
So, are you content for that to be minuted?
yes.
Right, thank you. Did you have any further comment to make?
No.
Thank you. Councillor Mrs Grottick.
Yes, I thought it might be helpful to my colleague to point out that there's a local plan subcommittee meeting on Thursday, and if Councillor Daly is able to attend, although I do believe he might be going on holiday, I'm happy to relay his views.
Thank you. But I feel sure that it has now been minuted. If somebody could bring the gentleman back into the room, that would be very kind.
No. Can I ask a further question, Chairman?
Is it on that particular matter?
No.
Right.
No,
Would you just wait for them to come back in the room? So, thank you.
Councillor Grottick.
Thank you, Chair. If members could please look at page 38, at the bottom of the page 5.1, I would just like reassurance that we will be very careful. I'm sure that I will be able to be reassured, but that we look for the best possible deal when actually paying these people to actually assist us. I know we need good advice, but I would just ask that in these cash-strapped times we try and spend as little money as possible to achieve the desired outcome. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. My understanding is that hopefully, as with any other procurement process effectively for the authority, that there'll have to be an established and proven value for money case presented. But yeah, I take on board your comments, Councillor Grottick, entirely. Any further comments or questions? Do we have a recommendation?
Sorry, Chairman, I'm just going to say it might be quite helpful, if not at this stage, fairly soon, to actually alert the community as a whole as to what the consultation period will be once when that has now been.
Yeah, I think that's a statutory requirement.
So that, just to let people know that they will have their say. All we're going to be producing is a draft, and then there will be plenty of opportunity.
I think we're legally obliged to let people know that they will have their say.
Yeah, indeed.
And rightly so, in my opinion. So, has it been proposed and seconded? Seconded by Councillor Moulton. All those in favour? That's unanimously approved. Thank you. Takes us to agenda item 7, P16121.
Thank you, Chair. This is an application at Roanoke on Porthcressa Road. This is an amended scheme from that previously discussed at last Planning Committee. to construct a three-storey rear extension to the rear of this existing mid-terrace property. So the front is proposed to enlarge an existing front first floor window to a full-height glazed opening with bifolding doors which open out onto a small balcony extending out approximately 0.6 metres. Below this is the removal of the timber garage doors with a window and a change of use from the garage to form habitable accommodation. Members will note the addendum report which summarises 3 objections. Since this was published, a further 4 representations have been received before the 20th of March deadline for commenting. 3 objections and one letter that does not object or support the proposal but would like consideration as to not permitting works during the main holiday season if the application is permitted. The 3 letters of objection raise issues including the weight given to the applicant as a local family when the property continues to be marketed for sale. The beneficiary, therefore, for the extensions would not necessarily be a local family. It's also noted that the reasons for deferral by members at the last committee meeting were to address the concern on the impact of the 3rd storey, which is felt has not been adequately addressed. That's the content of the 3 objections. Although the plans have been amended, this reduced size of the 2nd floor dormer window does not overcome the concerns set out in the report. It is the opinion of your officers that there is likely to be a significant impact upon the privacy and amenity of existing neighbouring properties as reflected in the first reason for refusal. By virtue of its former development, it would neither preserve nor enhance the character of the conservation area, and this is the basis for the 2nd reason for refusal.
Councillor Bilsborough.
Yes, Chairman. I think this, going by memory, it's the 4th time this application has been before us, or a similar one, and each time it's been downsized. Last time we looked at this, we agreed that we'd have a site visit, and several people turned up and looked round the site, and my own view is that it's looking at the whole vista there. I don't think this is out of place. The buildings generally are close together, but I don't think it's out of keeping. And also, I've discovered that 7 of the objectors on the properties, their properties are only occupied in the summer. They're shut in the winter months. These 5 out of the 7 objectors. I know that's not strictly a planning matter, but it's an indication. I have looked at this carefully, and I don't think there is strict grounds to turn it down. What did annoy me was, and I shall not mention names, but one person who lives near there had threatened to put the car in front of the opening which goes through from the road to the back should the development take place. Not a planning matter, but I'm just showing reasons for objection. I'll move on from there. Looking at the whole thing, I don't think it is blocking out the light to the extent that is claimed in some of these objections. And quite honestly, again, not strictly planning, but it is.
Okay, well, I'm going to have to stop you there. Councillor Pillsbury, you know full well that anything you suggest in this meeting needs to be based on strict planning.
Yes, well, as a planning authority...
Now, I fully appreciate and respect your opinion with regards to planning issues.
Okay.
And if you don't agree with the recommendation, obviously you will have an opportunity to vote whichever way you see fit. But please stick to planning issues.
Okay, I don't agree with the recommendation. Well,
Fine.
Really I'm saying, and I am proposing that we accept the applicant's plan as submitted. They've tried very, very hard. They've done their best, and I think they've done enough to warrant an approval.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Grottick.
Thank you, Chairman. I had hoped to be able to look more favourably on the amendments that we might have received after voting to defer it at the last meeting. I did propose deferral because I do recognise that young families should hopefully be encouraged to stay and work on the islands and have appropriate accommodation. However, at the last meeting, I voiced grave concerns about the 2nd floor part of this application, and they do not seem to have addressed those concerns. So sadly, I will not be able to support this application, however much I would have liked to do so. This may not be the end of the road for the applicants. They have been in consultation, I believe, with the officers, and they still could move forward. But given these amended plans do not seem to me to show very much movement on behalf of the applicants, I regret I will not be able to support it.
Thank you. Any further comments? Questions? Councillor Hicks? Okay, thank you. Councillor Mumford?
Yes, I think I agree with Councillor Grottick. I'm concerned about the 3 stories. Excuse my voice. I would like to see the height of the building come down a bit. Maybe just a 2-storey extension rather than a 3. And I would like to see new plans come back into council. I'm not asking for a deferment because I think it needs to be new plans.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Guy?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'm torn on this one, but I honestly don't think what we said at the last meeting, that the second floor has been addressed. I can't see a lot of change. So...
Okay, thank you, Councillor Sims. I will come to you, back to you, Councillor Billsborough. I apologise. It's just I'm trying to give anybody who hasn't commented yet an opportunity to speak, so bear with me. Councillor Sims.
I essentially agree with Councillor Guy regarding the second floor not being addressed. One thing that I'm slightly dubious about is the impact on light on the ground floor flat. If it's north-facing, it might get sunlight for about 4 or 5 weeks in the summer, for about 20 minutes before it sets. I don't think sunlight, direct sunlight in that particular area is going to be that close to that building is going to be minimal. However, I would agree with the other members' reservations about the second floor.
Thank you, Councillor Coombs.
I think I'll echo the issue about the mass, the overall mass of the building. I don't feel has been addressed in this resubmission. I not support further deferral. I'll go with the officer's recommendation.
Okay, Councillor Molson.
Yeah, I'm like Councillor Guy. I'm torn on this one. And I'll be quite honest with you. After the deferral, I was expecting slightly more substantial alterations to the plan. But I'll be quite frank with you. I'm not convinced that they've gone quite far enough on the alterations. But I am still torn between approval and refusal on this one.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Billsborough. Can I just say, just for clarity, as far as I'm aware, we still only actually technically have one recommendation in front of us, or one proposal that's been seconded, which was Councillor Billsborough's. A number of members have expressed an opinion in support of the recommendation that was tabled, but nobody's actually proposed it yet. So just so that we're clear on that. So far, I only have one proposal from Councillor Billsborough.
I'll just raise this. That in all my years I've been on planning, we've come across applications where people say, oh, it's too big. And I've said, how much too big? And they don't know, well, it ought to be made smaller. You know, you get this indeterminate. And I think, in this case, the applicants have done their best to downsize it enough to get acceptance. Okay? You know, people say this, they just don't like something big. It ought to be smaller. And quite honestly, if you look at there's a whole vista around there, I do not think it's out of place. And therefore, I say, I'm proposing acceptance, because if the applicant went to appeal, if we turned it down, they could win.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Coombs?
I'm happy to propose the officer's recommendations.
Okay, thank you. No further comments or questions. I will take the vote on Councillor Billsborough's proposal for approval of the application, which was seconded by Councillor Hicks. All those in favour of approval, please show clearly. Against? And abstentions? Show clearly, please, Councillor McCarthy. Okay, so that has not been approved. Unless there are any further comments or questions, I'm not in a position to be able to take a vote on Councillor Coombs' proposal because it hasn't been seconded yet.
I'll second the recommendation.
There's a technicality. Thank you very much, Councillor Mumford. So we have a recommendation for voice that's now been proposed and seconded. All those in favour of the recommendation should please show clearly. Any against? Any abstentions? Recommendation is carried. Thank you. Item 8, P17011. Doesn't mean that they accept recommendation 1 and 2. No. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Agenda item 8 is B17011, which is a certificate of lawfulness for Calmweather's Guest House to demonstrate that 2 existing units of ancillary holiday accommodation, which offer self-catering style accommodation in connection with the guest house, are now immune from enforcement due to their continuous use and length of time that has passed since they were established. The 2 units of accommodation are Poolside and Secret Garden, and on the evidence provided, officers are satisfied that they have been continually used as holiday accommodation in connection with Calmweather's for a continuous period of more than 10 years. It's therefore recommended we grant the certificate of lawfulness.
Thank you. Councillor Coombs?
I'd propose we accept the officer's report.
Seconded by Councillor Billsborough. Councillor Sims?
I was going to second. I'm slightly bemused about how long this situation's existed before it gets to us. This seems to be happened quite a lot, really. However, I completely endorse the recommendation.
All those in favour? I think that's unanimously approved. Thank you. P17012.
Thank you, Chair. This is an application for a variation of condition for the approved works to convert the boathouse at Green Bay in Briar. Essentially, the applicant is seeking to change the roofing materials on the converted part of the building, a reconfiguration of the roof lights and a reduction of and increase in height of the flue. Therefore, it's proposed to accept the varied condition to allow the conversion to be converted in accordance with the amended plans.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Molson.
I propose that we approve the application.
Seconded by Chairman of Council. Any further comments or questions? I can't see anybody's light on. All those in favour? I think that's unanimously approved. Thank you. That concludes part 1 of this meeting. Part 2, reports for information, which moves us to part 3. Which, for the record, is pretty much technically part 2, but it's exempt, so it has to be in part 3. But it is for information, but I will give members an opportunity to comment if they wish. I'll just give the press ample time to leave. I propose that under section 100A4 of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting for the following item of business on the grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 2 of part 1 of schedule 12A of that act, as amended. Proposed by Councillor Billsborough, seconded by Councillor Gottrig. All those in favour? Thank you, that's approved.